Weird timing, but we finally have a new intro. I won't really have a lot to say about it in the future, but it's worth mentioning we have a more in-depth look of the Akatsuki during it. Like, you can clearly see what looks to be Sasori and Deidara on the left. You know, it's almost kind of impressive Sasuke stays standing during these punches, just given how much blood he loses during them. These aren't like some baby punches either, these are full swings. Also, are Naruto's knuckles here just Sasuke's blood, or was he seriously just punching him that hard?
You haven't realized yet? I'm not using my Sharingan.
Okay, this is kind of a dumb argument from Sasuke. Even though this fight has technically been for 2 episodes now, this one and last one, like, nothing's happened. He punched Naruto, then hit him with Dragon Flame Jutsu, that is it. It's not like he needed his Sharingan for that.
You don't have what it takes. Not the strength or the desire.
What Sasuke says here perfectly mirrors what Itachi told him when they fought. He believes Naruto isn't fully set on bringing Sasuke back, so he's not strong enough to do it. And him having this perspective helps show how he now feels like he's above Naruto. He's following his goal to the max, so he's looking down on someone who he feels isn't. That makes this fight so much more different for Naruto. He's now not only trying to save his friend from corruption, but he's also trying to prove himself. He needs to prove he's driven enough to achieve his goals. And of course his overarching goal is to become Hokage, but his goal right now is to save Sasuke. And if he fails his goal right here, how could he become Hokage? How could he become Hokage?
I can't save a friend. Isn't that right, Sasuke?
This shot has always been the most confusing thing to me, but looking at it now, I finally figured out what it is. Sasuke hits Naruto as he falls, then jumps up and lands here. It was just shown in a way my 8 brain couldn't process. Last episode, I said Sasuke grabbed his ninja pouch as a sign of respect, but him giving it back here is a sign of disrespect. He thinks it's over here, which not only shows he's underestimated Naruto, but also that he's underestimated Naruto's drive. Anyways, thank God Naruto landed on what looks to be like the softest sand in the world, cause no sand does this.
Only through hatred and power can I hope to surpass my brother.
I want this to be kept in mind as we see the flashbacks during this episode. I'm gonna bring it back up later.
That building is where father works, isn't it?
This building gives me fucking flashbacks. That one shot during the massacre is one of the coolest of all time.
Which is good because only the most exceptional of shinobi can weed out the criminals hiding among their brethren.
Okay, the layers to this line are just insane. Let's just get into it. On the surface, we have him talking about the police force, which low-key makes the fact that it's made up of Uchiha kind of ironic. Digging deeper, however, it also relates to Itachi's part in the Uchiha massacre, as he and Obito were the people that killed the Uchiha, who, as we know, were gonna pull off a coup, and that would obviously make them criminals. Not to mention, he was the only member in the village that could pull that off, given his position and skill, which is what would have made him quote-unquote exceptional. Sasuke even technically takes this line to heart, if we dig deeper and then widen our scope a bit, as he does kill Danzo, who, well, kinda was the reason the massacre even happened, which would make him a criminal. Just an immaculate line.
Are you gonna join the force too?
Well, I'm not sure.
This line is obviously just Sasuke asking if Itachi's gonna join the police force, but it actually has an underlying double meaning if you take into account Itachi's whole clan or village dilemma that he had during the Uchiha coup. The first meaning of this line is that is he joining the force, as in the Uchiha side, or is he siding with the Leaf? The I don't know Itachi gives perfectly mirrors how he was dealing with it. You can tell he doesn't want to join the force in his tone, but you can tell there's an underlying reason to why he's not giving a full-on answer. Like, another immaculate line? And it's right after the last one?
Boy, when I grow up, I'm definitely gonna enter the police force. And father's coming to tomorrow's entrance ceremony. It's the first step to my dream.
Something that I think is really good about the early parts of this flashback is that Sasuke's life is all sunshine and rainbows. Like, it seems like he should have a fucking propeller hat and a lollipop in his hand. And that's what makes the early parts of this so sad to me, because in my head, it just seems like it was so easy for all of this to have a good ending. Because peace is always an option, regardless of your political views. I think if you've watched Naruto, that's something you gather, and if you watched it while you're young, it's something you carry with you. So seeing Sasuke all happy here is like, damn, if people weren't so ignorant, it could have been so much happier. It shows so well that when violence is chosen, it affects the future generation the most. And I think young Sasuke is one of, if not the best examples of that.
If you complete tomorrow's mission, Itachi, your entrance into Anbu Black Ops is all but assured. Do you understand?
Cool touch, but Fugaku is low-key trying to intimidate Itachi here, as shown with him activating his Sharingan. Cause there's no other reason for him to do this. And Itachi not being fazed by it, and instead shifting the conversation to Sasuke's entrance ceremony is a great way to show he's a loving brother. It gives him more characterization, and plants seeds in our heads in how he operates. He's not someone who overtly shows he loves his younger brother, he just does it subtly. And that's why when Obito reveals the truth of Itachi, Sasuke doesn't believe it, but us the viewer can kinda get behind it.
Actually, I'm going to pass on tomorrow's mission.
It's kinda crazy, but this entire conversation is really just a chess match. Fugaku wants to go on Itachi's mission, but Itachi knows it's Sasuke's entrance ceremony the same day. He knows Sasuke wants his dad to go, so his entire goal here is to make that happen. And him saying this here is like the equivalent of a brilliant move, cause it forces Fugaku to question why, and that allows Itachi to just naturally bring up the entrance ceremony. Something Fugaku didn't allow Sasuke to do since he cuts him off. Like, shout out Itachi for just looking out for Sasuke. This guy's a villain in the story here, by the way, and literally all the Flashback has done so far is make him seem like the opposite of what we see him as.
Boy, it seems like only yesterday that you were here for Itachi, huh? And you're his spitting image.
First off, probably not the thing Sasuke wants to hear. Second off, this guy has to be someone in the Akamichi clan, right? That's not, like, mean to say. He sounds like Choji. In fact, I think it's the same VA. I just can't quite prove it. I'm not, like, tapped in on the academy teachers, so I guess I'm just gonna leave this one up to debate.
Become a fine shinobi, just like your older brother.
Yes, Father.
I think one of, if not the best things about this flashback is how well it portrays a little brother being in the shadow of their insanely talented siblings. He looks up to Itachi but is constantly compared to him. This comparison is something that kind of bothers him in some sense because he wants to be Sasuke Uchiha, not Itachi's younger brother. This isn't something he takes personally though, he uses it to work harder. But it still adds more low-key pointless pressure for him that others around him might not have. And that's a very real mindset and a feeling for a younger sibling to have. And I think for younger siblings, it makes them relate to this Sasuke a lot, especially if they're grown up now and understand that there's levels to this shit. Something I also think it shows really well is how parents can almost put an unwarranted pressure on the youngest sibling and make them maybe feel like they don't have their own identity. Fugaku comparing him to Itachi in like every line in this episode shows that he can't talk about Sasuke without mentioning Itachi. And like, we see how that makes Sasuke feel. I feel like we've seen this shot before with someone else. I just can't quite pinpoint who or when. Nah, it's just gotta be a coincidence. Everything in this show is just a coincidence.
Times have changed, sweetheart. And your brother is special.
First off, shout out Sasuke's mom. Low-key an underrated character, but some of you might not be ready for that conversation. Second off, it's kind of funny to me, but Itachi's literally just seen as different because he's more introverted and deep in thought. And basically, since he's not like weirdly outly extroverted like other characters in Naruto, like he literally just doesn't talk as much as everyone else, and I guess he's maybe more philosophical, but that's not like distant. Are our brains shrinking?
Keep excelling like this and you'll be just like your brother in no time.
I wanted you to say, that's my boy, to me.
This moment is really where I think the viewer just feels for Sasuke. Cause this is just brutal. He just wants real approval, not some comparison, but he doesn't get that. And that leaves him to compare himself with Itachi even more, and it only adds to that little brother thing I was mentioning earlier. Not only that, but now we can get into that thing I mentioned like a little bit ago, because this now allows us to make a very sad parallel with the younger Sasuke and the Sasuke now. If the young Sasuke is weaker than Itachi, he's just seen as the little brother. But if the Sasuke now is weaker than Itachi, he's letting down his entire clan, like his entire bloodline. That helps us see why he's putting so much pressure on himself. This is kind of all he's known, but it's also something he can't truly escape until he wins. Not only that, but he sees hate as the only way. Mainly because Itachi told him, but also because looking up to Itachi meant he was then compared to him. So he hates Itachi and resents him because in his head, it breaks that comparison. He compares himself a lot to Itachi in this fight, and in fact the Mangekyo situation is a very big example. So breaking comparison in his head is the first step to surpassing him. And obviously in the grand scheme of things, this is just a small reason to why Sasuke uses hate to become stronger. Like there's a lot more to it, and we see that as Naruto vs Sasuke goes on. But it's still really cool you can psychologically analyze why Sasuke would use hate to beat Itachi.
You also serve as the Uchiha clan's pipeline to the village nerve center. You know that, don't you?
I feel like even without hindsight, this comes off as a little sketchy. Like, why would this matter that he's the pipeline to the nerve center? What's Fugaku even getting at? And I think that gives the viewer the idea that maybe something was up. That part obviously being with hindsight, but I do at least think it makes the viewer question what he means here. Cause like I said, why is this that deep?
Father only cares about you, Itachi.
You probably hate me, huh?
I like that Itachi is aware of the fact he puts pressure on Sasuke. It makes him seem more perceptive as a character, but also shows that he's watching. He's aware of it, and I think his response to it all shows that loving side we're officially introduced to in this flashback.
Being the best isn't all it's cracked up to be. When you have power, you become arrogant and isolated from the world. No matter how coveted and sought after you are in the beginning.
Yeah, and how much this relates to Sasuke as a character now, and especially later. Like, so much so, I don't even have to say it.
I'm always going to be there for you, even if it's only as an obstacle for you to overcome. Even if you do hate me. That's what big brothers are for.
Nope, not doing it. I'm choosing peace this time. But just know, y'all are lucky. Okay, I'm just gonna get this out of the way right now. This mini conflict is so tough. It's really good too, in the sense that for most of it, Itachi seems like the good guy since they're kind of just pressing him for no reason. And obviously, with hindsight, we can look a lot into it, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
But we're not your father. You won't be getting any special treatment from us.
First thing I'll get into here. Who the fuck do these three think they are? No one knows you. Stop acting like you three are important. I'm putting these three in the character tier list at the end of the show just out of pure hate, and I'm putting them in F. They're like the in-universe equivalent of like a chihuahua.
Do you know anything about Shisui Uchiha ending his life in Nagano River?
First off, Itachi clocked that shit immediately. He knew what they were gonna get on. Second off, can we give some props to the voice actor for sounding not only sad, but like he's interrogating at the same time? Kind of an underrated line. Third off, haven't done this before, it's kind of crazy Shisui is mentioned this early, especially because we only officially see him like a while later. Even though he's so influential to the overall story.
Well, at this point, the police force sees no other choice but to launch an all-out investigation into the matter.
Yeah, this is just the most obvious cast of suspicion, by the way. They say that only Itachi and Shisui were absent at the meeting, then just say like, yeah, we're gonna investigate and see if it was a murder. Cause anyone with the Sharingan could copy his message. Like, that just leaves two suspects, Kakashi and Itachi. Like, this Mickey Mouse investigation. Thank God Itachi called them out.
You shouldn't judge people by their appearance, or by your own preconceptions.
I like how in this conflict, so many of Itachi's lines can have a double meaning. And you know what? I'm just gonna go over all of them. This one obviously being the first. The surface level meaning is that they shouldn't judge Shisui for what they think he is. Like, you know, maybe he did do it. The second meaning, however, pertains to Itachi, as these dumbasses see him as the patient, calm person, which in all actuality, he isn't. Which is the exact thing he says later. It's also kind of funny how much this pertains to how the community sees Itachi, but I'm not getting into that. All I'm gonna say is that there is two glaringly different opinions about Itachi, and they're kind of interesting to say the least.
Why don't you just come out and say it? You believe I had a hand in this, don't you?
So, very cool production tactic here to not only show tension, but to quickly up the stakes. They cut the aspect ratio at the top and bottom of the frame just to differentiate how the shot looks. The viewer naturally sees this and picks up on it and notices something's off. That allows the tension and Itachi's Sharingan coming out to be a lot more noticeable. And because that's more noticeable, it makes the confrontation stick out more to the viewer.
Appearances and preconceptions aren't going to tell you anything. For instance, you've made the mistake of assuming I'm a patient man.
It's kind of crazy to say that this is really the first time in this flashback Itachi seems hostile. And it's kind of valid too. These three are dicks. I don't think anyone's blaming him for this. But also, like, can we talk about how easily he took these three down? I don't know how strong these three are, but at least two of them are shown to have a 3-Tomoe Sharingan.
You overestimate your own abilities, with no idea of the depth of my own.
Okay. I'll say it. Not the best look for him. I think right here is the point where the viewer just goes like, yeah, that kind of sounds like the Itachi we know. Which can lead us to assume one of two things based off these flashbacks. Number one would be, bro just lost his mind. And number two would be that the kind side is an act and he's really just insane. And with how he acts during his fight with Sasuke and Shippuden, I think either conclusion is pretty valid for a first-time viewer.
Obsessed with our lineage. A worthless compulsion that enslaves us and limits our capabilities, leading us to fear what you don't understand.
I feel like this line is very in line with what we know during the Truth of Itachi, and I think it really helps expose what he's feeling and thinking in this situation. He sees what they're doing with the coup and with Shisui as being extremely ignorant, cause he's seeing everything in the perspective of the village as a whole. So he's basically just saying their obsession with the clan stops them from seeing things from his point of view, and it leads them to fearing it. And him telling them this and the lines following it just shows he hates this. He's seeing them as so ignorant that it's just rage bait to him, and I think right here he's kind of just letting it out.
Nothing strange about me. I have my own duties to fulfill. That's all.
Okay, meaning 1. Itachi had an Anbu mission, so that's the duties he needs to fulfill. Meaning 2. The duty Itachi had to fill was killing Shisui, which in hindsight we know isn't true, but it can be seen as such. Meaning 3. Itachi isn't different, but he has his duties to fulfill in murdering the clan. Which is kinda like meaning 1, just slightly different.
Why didn't you come last night?
To achieve the next state.
Here's another line with 2 meanings. Who could have guessed? This one is just a little more dependent on how you see Itachi as a character though. At least up to this point. The first meaning is that he wasn't there because he killed Shisui, giving him Mangekyo. This is the side you would see if you were to view Itachi as the evil villain we're supposed to see him as. The second meaning, however, is that he went to talk to Shisui, which led to him getting Mangekyo. That would be him achieving the next state, but this line can also be read as going into the next phase, which could technically be seen as him coming to the conclusion about killing the Uchiha. And I know this is a stretch because this line is definitely just supposed to mean the Mangekyo, but I still think it's cool. Just that like a simple vague line like this can have so many hidden meanings behind it. In hindsight, it's kind of funny that you can see Fugaku be like, ah shit, he's not with us, is he? Also, yeah, very classic imagery of him just saying, screw the clan. I think that's pretty obvious though.
The people of this clan are all the same. You focus on the trivial and lose sight of what's most important. Change is impossible in this fog of ignorance.
There's actually a lot to talk about here. First off, this is very clearly him talking about the village versus the clan. I don't think there's a question there. Like, I don't even think this is a hindsight thing either, it's just pretty clear. But also, something very interesting with this shot is that it's in a fisheye lens. We tend to see a lot of fisheye lenses when it comes to the perspective of birds. And you know what would have happened canonically the day before this? Shisui would have given Itachi his last eye, and Itachi would have implanted it into a crow. So this shot can be seen as him remembering Shisui while also taking in Shisui's point of view. Like, that's an insane detail. 2005, by the way. I think it's really important to point out that Itachi immediately stopped the second Sasuke yelled out. It shows that even when he's made out to be the villain Itachi we know, that other side of him is still very prevalent and maybe even the realer side of him. And this kind of moment sticks in our head. It makes it kind of hard to see Itachi as this one-dimensional bad guy after he does something like this.
As for Itachi, I take full responsibility for him.
Even though I've low-key been shitting on Fugaku for this episode, I think it's still a good moment that he does this. I don't think it's crazy to assume he knows Itachi isn't on his side, but he's still his son at the end of the day, so it doesn't matter to him. So I guess W Fugaku? This is actually the first ever time we see Mangekyo. Which seems kind of weird because we've seen it used before, but as a lot of people know, Kishimoto didn't have the Mangekyo look figured out when we first saw it. But he did this time, and it might just be the most iconic. Anyways, oh shit, the fight.
Let me show you the true power of the Sharingan.
To Tomoe, by the way. True power, he says. So I don't usually talk about outros on this channel because I really don't feel any type of way about them. But now that it's a new intro, it's also a new outro, and this one looks pretty cool. It's got these cool looking stars, and this shot with Sakura reminds me of one of the intros in Shippuden. You know the one with that crystal thing and everyone's trying to grab it? You probably know it. I might start saying some stuff about the outro. There's actually some stuff to talk about in it. Anyways, watch this fucking segue. Usually a whole episode that consists of a flashback is kind of disgusting, but I think this one's fine. It gives us a lot of much needed background for Sasuke's life before the massacre, which helps us sympathize with his situation just so much more. Not only that, it gives us some good extra characterization of Itachi, which I think is good for shaping who he really is as a character. I think it also does everything just really well. There's a lot of really good tension and conflict in this episode, but no real action. And I think something like this, like a flashback episode in the middle of the ultimate climax, is not only really bold, but also really good if executed correctly. And right here, this episode is a great example of great execution. We now really feel for Sasuke, and it heightens the overall weight of this fight. I'd say Sasuke's personal struggle is the best part of this episode, but I don't think that's really giving the rest of it justice, especially the end of it. And yeah, I think that's all there really is to say. If you want to support me more than just watching this video, you can become a member on Patreon. And yeah, next episode, Father and Son, The Broken Crest. Crest? What's this about? Wonder what this one's about.